Our speaker, Nalui Mahin, has a degree in media studies. She's currently a master's student in communication, and she's starting to work on a second degree in law so that she can be a lawyer, a public defender. And she's currently at the Universidade Federal Fluminense in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. She's an activist in the Black students movement and one of the founders of the Black Students College Association of her home campus. She's also a student representative who is advising the Office of Affirmative Action at her university. She was a visiting scholar in the Department of African American and African Studies at Ohio State University, and today she is finishing her master's research about very interesting stuff about the reception of Brazilian telenovelas in Cuba with a focus on racial representation. In her experience as an activist, she's doing research about preventing fraud in the affirmative action programs in Brazil. We also have with us Kiko Scruggs. He is a PhD candidate at the University of Tennessee, and he's finishing up his dissertation right now. It's on the characterization of Black male protagonists in Latin American and Caribbean literature from 1955 to the present. Kiko focuses his research in general on issues of race, sexuality, nation building, and many other things in Caribbean literature. I am inviting them both to speak to you today as part of a series of speakers on how Latin American people, how people from the Caribbean and the larger diaspora have been dealing with the issues of Black Lives Matter in their own countries. Here, of course, in the United States, we have been working on this subject, working through this subject all through the summer, all through these horrible images of police violence against Black men and women, through court cases where we don't see justice happening, through protesters on the streets, and through political rhetoric. So one of the main issues that we had here was to think about as scholars of Caribbean and Latin American history, sociology, anthropology, philosophy, and language. We wanted to bring together some more people who can speak on how the same issues are reflected in other parts of Las Americas, where we all live. So those of you who are just joining us for this presentation today, know that there will be two more speakers joining us. One, a professor from Colombia, joining us next Tuesday at 6:30. And the following Wednesday, also at 6:30, we have two representatives from the Maison d'Haïti in Canada, in Montreal, who are working with youth programs for Haitian youth, and especially young men who have come to Canada from Haiti. So we're going to welcome you to all of those. But the last thing I want to say is just thank you to Don Duke in particular for introducing me to Nalui, to actually introducing me to Kiko Scruggs, who I met as a graduate student, one of his first semesters here in a class that I was teaching on slavery in the Americas. And we are very excited to have the co-sponsorship of many different departments on campus. Of course, we in Latin American and Caribbean Studies have put this speaker series together, but we have gotten a lot of really generous support from Africana Studies, from sociology, from political science, from global studies, and from modern foreign languages and literatures. So I hope that many of those people from those parts of campus are here today and can hear more about what's going on across the Americas and perhaps how we can transmit those issues to our own life. So right now I'm going to turn it over to Nalui, and she's going to have Kiko as her interlocutor, because I'm going to be monitoring the chat and our attendees, taking care of any technical difficulties that arise. So if any of those happen, please do let me know. And after Nalui's presentation, we'll hear a little bit more in dialogue with her and Mr. Scruggs, and then invite you all to take part in the question and answer session. So please go ahead and get started, Nalui.
Hello, good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation, Dr. Block and Dr. Duki, and thank you so much for everybody here for this conversation. The idea is a conversation about diaspora, about the situation in Brazil. If you don't understand something, please let me know. So I will try to be clear. So before start talking about the movements here in Brazil, I wanna talk about Brazil situation and Black people here. Brazil, I don't know if everybody's here know, but Brazil receive 40% of all the total of slave people in the world. Like 40% of all people was in slavery came to Brazil, and is the biggest slavery country in the world, and they with this biggest population, like 5 million of Black people came to here in slavery. So to control all these people, all the revolts our Black people are doing, they Portuguese using many strategies. Violence, one of these, but after generations and generations, they use the idea of a racial democracy. Racial democracy is the idea that we don't have problems in Brazil. The idea of they don't have racial problems because everybody is mixed in the country. So slavery happened, but after everything is okay, and we don't need to talk about race because race is not a problem. And it's a biggest problem because you can talk about, if you have a problem and you can talk about this, it's turned these structures stronger, and you don't need to allow to make the races something stronger, and you don't need allow to segregate if you have this kind of idea in the country. And so today in Brazil, we have one of the biggest Black population in the world. Nigeria is the first Black population in the world. Brazil is the second. We are 100. We are more than 100 million people in Brazil. So we are 54% of the population, and even with this huge number, we continue being excluded of everything. I can say we are excluded in politicians, we are excluded in media, mainly in media we are excluded, and in education we have this fight about the affirmations actions. One thing I want to say, many people is talking about Bolsonaro, the bad things they are doing in in this presentation in ONU and everything, but it's important to say we have these two progressist governments, Lula and Dilma. Probably you heard about this, but it's important to say Lula and Dilma didn't, they make nothing to solve the problem of genocide and mass incarceration in Brazil. I want to show something for you. It's image to try explain the situation.
Well, we're all learning our technology these days.
I'm sorry.
No worries. Take your time.
Are you seeing this? So this is a map to show a genocide in this country, in Brazil. So this is 2015, and this red country is Brazil, and represent the number of the homicides, 59,000, and all these other countries in blue are the homicides added is the same. We have only in Brazil. So we have a genocide, and almost 80% of people are being killed are Black. So now we have a situation in the university that the academics don't like to say we have a genocide, but yes, the numbers show it. We have a genocide in this country, and the mass incarceration is really a big problem here. I stopped the share the screen. Okay, Brazil is the third country with biggest prison population. We have almost 800,000 people incarcerated. So we have these governments, Lula and Dilma, but the real situation was they didn't think to solve the problem. In these governments, the mass incarceration grew between 2006 and 2016. The mass incarceration doubled in Brazil. So the numbers are really impressive. But one thing good that these governments made was affirmations actions. With affirmations actions, we have the country have the possibility to for the first time to have a debate, a public debate of race. That the idea of racial democracy never was not able to do this conversation in public sphere. So in my case, this debate of affirmations actions include me in debate of the race, about race. It's hard to explain this for a public from US, but many people in Brazil many Black people in Brazil don't consider themselves like a Black, because we have a society with mix. Many people have mestizos, but it's important to say all these people, mestizos and people who considered mestizos are Black. The statistics show these mestizos, we call it pardos, pessoas pardas, and black people. We have the same numbers, the same indicators in education. So we have this difference between white people, they have access for everything in education and health, and the other part, like in other country, we are black people with expected life expected less in less years, and many other problems of access. So in my case, like a personal case, I grew up in a region called Baixada Fluminense, is a black area in the state of Rio de Janeiro, and I study in a white college in this area. It's a private college, and was really hard for me growing up in this school because the races are really strong. And when I was 10 years, when I was 10 years old, they start, the debate of affirmations actions start. And in school, everything was more tense. We have attention, like attention. And for me, was hard every day listen people talking about my hair, about my skin, about I what I am. And my mom tried solve this problem. She visited the school. She asked the school for solve this problem, but not anything happened to really change this. So the only thing my mother do and and really solve my problem was show me good images of black people, the struggle of black people. And the first movie I saw was Malcolm X, directed by Spike Lee. And it was really important for my auto-esteem. It's important to say in Brazil and in many countries in diaspora, the black movements produced in US help us to understand us like black people and look for the situation here in our country, because the media here don't produce good images of black people. So the movie Muhammad Ali, Black Panther's Party, everything, all of these movies help it. So on Sundays I watch these movies, and in the Monday when I go to school, I was proud um, and reactive of the racial violence in a different way. So in 2013, we have the first affirmations action in the university. It's important to say we don't have black universities, we don't have black colleges. So until 2003, all the universities in these countries are white universities, all. So only 5% of students in the university are blacks in Brazil in the 2000s, in the beginning of 2000s. So with affirmations actions, we started to dispute the narrative of races, and the collectives of black students begin to organize. And it was important for me because they organized a group of studies, and it was the first time I had the opportunity to read about black people in the world, about Africa. One problem in these groups was the sexism, and the woman began organizing against the situation and created their own groups. So I participated of a group of Black students with men and women, and after I moved to the group of Black women, and it was really important for me to learn about feminism in Brazil, Black feminism in Brazil and in other countries. So it's important to say that when the affirmations actions starts here, these students, the first classes of group of Black students, these people receive much racial violence. They are almost assault in the university. People draw swastikas in the walls in the university after they affirmations actions to say to Black people they are not they shouldn't, it is, they shouldn't be in the universities. So only in 2012 the affirmations actions was considered legal by the Supreme Court in Brazil. Other thing is important to say is they white intellectuals in Brazil, white professor, many of these professors spend the lives studying Black people, studying Black religions. These white people was against affirmations actions in Brazil. They use all the power, all the space they have in media, all the space they have in universities to say, no, we are against affirmations actions to Black people because we don't have a racial problem in this country. We have an economic problem. So another argument they used was the quality of the university will be should be worse when these Black people come in the universities, and another things, and was really important the positions of Black intellectual to dispute the narrative and say and talk about the necessity of affirmations actions to have a best country with more opportunities for everybody. So in 2012, I was approved to the university, and I started collective of Black students. And in all this time, we have some victories. We have a much struggle, but we have many victories, to many wins. One of these was a spot to professor of sociology of racial relations, because in the sociology course, social science course, don't have a professor of racial relation. So so we fight for this. We like a Black group of students. We went to the reunion of the professors and asked for this, and it was one we win this. I think another win we have was the affirmations actions in the graduated. We articulated with professors, with students, to approve affirmations actions in different programs. It's important to say Brazil today have a law for affirmations actions at graduated, but many programs um, don't um, don't do. They continue doing um, the same thing and not do um, like uh, they don't reserve they spots to Black people, so they don't care about their law when it's about Black people. So it's necessary the Black movement of students go and press and say for this program to look the law and reserve the spots. And I think they probably the most important win we have was constructed a committee to check to verify the spots of spots in degree. We have some spots to Black students. After 2012, we have this spot for Black students. And with this discourse of everybody's equal, everybody's mixed in Brazil, many white people are trying occupy, use the spots of Black people. And we started to ask the university, like, what's happening? Like, you are not checking these students. So they spots of medicine, engineer, these elite course um, are not being used by by Black people. White people was using. So we pressed the university to verify, to change the system, and the public ministers, like I don't know how to say this in English, but it's a the Ministério Público have the function to verify, to check if the law, if the university and other institutions in the country are doing the things right. And the minister and this institution say to the university, look, you are not doing the things right, you need a change. And we are doing this reivindication inside. And the system begin a change in 2017. We have the first committee, like the first group, to verify the misuse of the affirmations actions. And more 15% of the spots are being occupied by white people. It's like in my university, 200 spots was occupying by white people, but this spot was to Black people was being occupied by white people. So it's hard for us because many times they like the director of the university, the director of a degree, and they graduated, don't wanna listen what are saying. But we organize protests, we organizing other things to change, to say to say for the university, change the system. And is the question about the fraud of in the affirmations actions is it's not the the racial democracy idea is the other thing is white people in this country don't accept like black people in the university. They don't wanna give up of their privileges. So these white people feel free to occupy these black spots. So one thing about affirmations actions is it's changing the dynamic of the country. If it nowadays we have a more research about black people in school, about mass incarceration. If we have more research about black people, is because black people are going to the university, are going to graduate programs and making this research. Because so now it's possible look to the research to the university is see the difference in the dynamic, the difference in research, the difference in professors. Like before the affirmations actions, I have some professors, they don't like I talk about race in the class. But now I'm saying these people are changed, but they are not changing just because they like to change. They are changed because we are saying you need a change. So is another thing is what's happening in Brazil is some companies are doing affirmation selective process to trainees, and they are contracting more black people. And like this week, a big company made a first affirmations action program. They made a program to contract only black people, and these company are being sued. So this idea, this colonial idea of like black people can be in this space is really strong in Brazil. So, but the affirmations actions is helping us to have a conversation and dispute this. And another thing is happening now is the movement like Black Lives Matter. We have other movements against the genocide. Then I will say the name of some of these movements. One is Reaja ou Será Morto, Reaja ou Será Morta. The name is React or You'll Be Die. The name of this group, like React, is not like reacting against the policial violence at the moment you are being in the situation. Is React is like organize or you die. So these movements organize marches and support the families who had a familiar killed by the state. So I will share the screen to share. So this movement, Reaja, it's the are you seeing? So this is the march in Salvador, Bahia. This movement is I don't remember the year, but this movement was founded before Black Lives Matter. And they organize this march every year in the police officer. It's one of the movements we have against the genocide. We have the March of Black Women. This march, I think this march was the biggest march of Black people in the history. I think we have 60,000 people in this march. It was in Brasilia, in the capital of the country. And this march is Black Woman March, but it's against the genocide, against the violence. And it was, we have a national articulation to construct this march. And we have ECUM. It was an event. The name of this event is National Meeting of Black Collective and Students. So it was the first time we have this biggest event. It's 2015. So we have different movements in Brazil. We have another, but I choose talk about this. And I think it's really important to have this kind of conversations, share the experience, to try understand the different contexts and formulating different strategies to go on to don't be in a situation with we don't have it. I think we needed construction, different strategies to have access of our rights. So this image is the campaign against the fraud. It's my collective. We did this. This woman is a MC. She's a funk MC. She's really popular here in Brazil, and we use her image to say fraud and misuse it in quotas. Denuncie. I don't remember how they translate of this word, but it's speak. Yes, like speak up, speak about this. And another action of the collective I'm part was we reproduce the campaign. Like we saw a campaign of Black students in Harvard. They was with plaques and with phrases. They urine in the university. They listen in the university. So this is my friend. She's a member of the collective, and one professor say. The most quota students are semi-illiterate. So it's the kinds of things the Black students listen in the classrooms. These Black people are racist to themselves. This is the idea of racial democracy. Like Black people are the racists, not white people. So the idea of this campaign is show what's happening in the life of Black students, what kind of thing we are listening every day in the campus, and like it's need a change. So, but you are not even Black. Our other parts of this idea of racial democracy to say to Black people they are not Black, and you are not Black, you are moreninho. Moreninho is like a way to say you are not Black, you are almost white. And this is really interesting. You are important, these American ideas. Here in Brazil, we are all mestizos and mixed. My grandmother is Black. So this is the idea of racism is from US. Here in Brazil, we don't have a segregated, we don't have these kinds of racial problems. So they stop to share. I stop, okay? I stop share, okay. So to finalize my what I want to say, we are now in this moment with Bolsonaro government, with all these situations where we need to organize more to preserve our lives and our rights. They movements against the genocide are articulated, and one example is the coalition for Black coalition for rights. It's a group of more than 100 groups of Black movements. And this articulation, this group of organizations are doing letters and going to the Congress, going to the Supreme Court against the decisions of Bolsonaro government. So I think like a Black student in Brazil is really hard. The situation is hard because many of these students Black students in the university are poor, don't have money, and even the university being free, we need it's hard to maintain to conclude the university. The material conditions are difficult. We don't have the same opportunities of job and internships, even with these affirmations actions in the companies. Many families don't have the condition to give all the support for these Black young people. So it's hardest for us stay and stay. It's hard in the material conditions, but it's hard in the psychology, like in the ambient, the atmosphere is not good for us because we continue being the number of Black students is not like 50%. We are less. So the discrimination, the racism of the professors, the racism of how they structure the university are, I think it's hard for us stay and conclude, but we have this responsibility with our families, and we have this responsibility with our people to return for our communities and make the chant, because if we don't do this, the governments are not doing this, white people are not doing this, so we just have ourselves. In the marshes, like you can see in the photos, only Black people are in the marshes against the genocide. Only the Black people are in the marshes of Black Woman March. White people in Brazil are not participating of this chant. These things, this fight are, we are doing this by us, because they white people here is not conscious. They are closing their eyes for all the genocide, all the exclusion, and who is making this country better, a place to live and not just survive, is the Black people. The Black young people are doing things to transform this, not just the universities, but to transform the political situation, like after the Marielle Franco homicide. More Black people are in candidates, are running for spots, like a congressman, and we are seeing things change, and it's important to say Black people are doing this. So just to finish, I wanna show a video. So I think, can I do this? I have a time. It's like 1 minute.
Sure, we've got time. And for those of you who are attending this, now's the time to start thinking about questions that you want to ask to Nalui, and put them in the chat box, and we have some questions from Kiko as well.
Oh, no. Are you seeing the? What are you seeing?
We see the formatura preta.
Okay.
So yeah, just have to wait for it to play. Let's try.
Are you listening?
Já fiz isso, é que eu tô fazendo aqui. Mas sai de criança e dormir. Tá no local, ainda subindo. Foi pedindo licença que eu cheguei até aqui. É que eu tô fazendo aqui. Mas sai de criança e dormir. Tá no local, ainda subindo. Foi pedindo licença que eu cheguei até aqui. Abre o caminho, deixa o bicho passar. Abre o caminho, deixa o bicho passar. Sou reflexo da sociedade, reflexo virou matéria. Os pretos tá tão no topo que pra bater só o caça da força aérea. Seu time cometeu falta grave, nós resolve no tapa. E meu diz que é a prova, que se pode julgar o livro pela capa. Sensação, sensacional. Sensação, sensacional. Sensação, sensacional. firma, firma, firma. Fogo nos racistas. Sensacional. E sensação, sensacional. Sensação, sensacional. Firma, firma, firma. Fogo nos racistas.
And if I'm wrong, then you are racialist.
Nessa cidade cinza, olhares brancos visitam, há perigo nas esquinas, e eu falo mais de 3 línguas.
So this is my generation, and I'm really proud of what this young generation are doing. I'm so thankful for what the generation before made, but I'm really proud of what we are doing here. And in this video, the main thing they are saying is it was not asking for permission. I arrived here. And is this, we are not asking permissions, we are fighting for our rights. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, Nalui, for your presentation. And you've got some fans in the chat box. Maybe, Kiko, you have a question, and we'll come back to this great question from Luis Sanchez about your time in the United States as an international student. But Kiko, why don't you ask a question first?
Yes, thank you. Nalui, I just want to say that your presentation was absolutely impactful, and I think it's going to resonate with a lot of people. Brazil, the United States, and different geographic areas in the world. I think a lot of your presentation, it resonates with me personally, you know, not only being a Black student myself in the university environment, but also having to go home away from the university, and those perceptions that people view you, they view you differently when you're not dressed up nicely. They view you differently when you are in academia. And so you have these different, I guess, these different attacks that come at you, and it's psychologically very debilitating, as well as very physically debilitating as well. And so I think your presentation did a good job of capturing the fight in us, the everyday struggle that we go through, but it's also, it's very traumatic for people. And I don't think people who aren't Black or aren't marginalized, I don't know if they understand the impact that words have and actions have on us, because we have been so discriminated against in history. But I did have a question regarding Black Lives Matter, because you alluded to it, and you alluded to different movements going on. Haija, I think you mentioned that as well. And that was before Black Lives Matter, which was in 2013 in the United States. But when did Black Lives Matter become a thing in Brazil? And is it still very active today?
So I'm not sure if I understand. Are you asking if the movement continue working? Is this?
Yeah, I guess when was the first idea of Black Lives Matter in Brazil? When did that become a big topic, the actual movement of Black Lives Matter from the United States?
Mm-hmm. I think in Baltimore, I think it's 2015.
Okay.
It's I was in US, but people was asking me what's happening. In this moment, they movement was have the impact here,
Mm-hmm.
but it's important to say the movement of Black people always have impact here, like many in many years, like and they so uh, like they parties so parties.
Mm-hmm.
So it arrived here, and it was really important for the generations of my mother, of my father. The aesthetic, it was really important. But the movement, like Black Lives Matter, I think in uh, 2015 in Baltimore, we start to see more, and today and now. In uh, After uh, the case of George Floyd is
Mm-hmm.
impressing the impact of this in Brazil, because in the mainly channel was talking about this, about racism, but talk about racism in US, but we have
Mm-hmm.
all the situation happening here, and the media just uh, like pretend it's not exist here. It's just, oh my God, look, this biggest march in US, and one thing historical happened in a program. They put only Black people to discuss. It was historical in this country, because all the journalists, almost all the journalists are white, and they only put one
Mm-hmm.
Black, like, so this have impacted. And here in at the same time happened a case terrible. A kid was killed inside the home. The
Oh wow.
police coming in at the home of this kid and killed. So in Brazil we made protests too, but I think have this connection, have this impact, we have this relation, because the power of U.S. reflection, they debates in U.S.
Mm-hmm.
reflection in Brazil.
It's interesting what you said before we go to Kristen, who may give a question from the audience. Something that you said was really interesting. Just the whole conversation, it's almost scary because there's such a mirror. It's almost like you see the United States and you reflect yourself and you see Brazil in the same mirror. Because when that happened with Freddie Gray in 2015 in Baltimore, the whole thing started with Trayvon in 2013 in Florida. But it's interesting what you said about the reaction from white people, especially because the same thing happened here. It's almost like the things in 2013 through 2016 never happened. It only happened when George Floyd was murdered. And so that's the reaction here. When here, I would say that the highest amount of white support was here when George Floyd was murdered. But interestingly, now in this same moment that we're talking, the moment with popularity with whites has already dropped way below what it was at first. So it's like 35% support now for Black Lives Matter. So it shows that even though our realities continue and we still have to protest and fight, that some people have a privilege to just continue on with their lives like nothing ever happened before. And so I think that's what you're getting to when you're explaining this to the people. Did you have a question though, Kristen, from the audience?
Sure. Luis Sanchez has asked to tell us more about your time as an international student in the United States and how maybe your perspective was changed or challenged from this experience in the United States?
So my experience was really good. I was in 2015 it was in Obama government. So I think the situation of people from outside was better than the atmosphere probably was better than is now. And I was in African American department, and it was a dream because we don't have Black professors. We need to fight to have a to talk about race and to discuss race about race in the class. All the bibliography in the class are whites.
Mm-hmm.
And if we question this, if we question like, professor, why everybody is white, we don't exist here, they professors like be like they don't like we question these things. So some say, oh, okay, you are right, we can check this, but majority don't want this kind of question. So when I arrived and saw many universities with Black departments, our African American department, it was like a dream for me. For it, in my reality, it's like a dream. I'm fighting today to have a Black department in my university, in all the universities of this country. And when I visit the Black universities, I know some people have critics for the Black universities, but every time I visit US, I try go in a Black university. So it was something so emotional for me, because really we don't have this opportunity. In Brazil, we just have 2 Black universities, but it's really recently. One is a private university, and other is a public university, and have African students and Afro-Brazilian students, and it's in Bahia, called Unilab. So for me, go to US and see Black people in TV, like it's something. When you are when you are come another country with all this historic of any opportunity to Black people, is really impressive. So they movements, like they this huge movement like Black Lives Matters now today is a huge movement. Saw TV and see TV and see Black people, go to the university and see Black professors, go to the library and have a book of Black people, um, and go to the shops and find the products for our hair, because the racism here is so strong. They don't consider Black people use products. So for many years, we just have products to straight hair and not to care our hair. So for me, it was really positive. I understand the violence against Black people. I'm not saying, oh, US is the better country to live to Black people. No, I'm not saying this. I'm saying the experience in Brazil is so bad, like being a Black people, that when you see this is really interesting for us. But here we have another kind of resistance. They Black religions, we have African religions in Brazil, we have Black organizations like with 200 years. We have other kinds of organizations, but see these things I told, it was really important for me. And when I returned to Brazil, I have much more self-esteem
Mm-hmm.
to say, um, I have rights, and you need to respect Black people, and we have the right to have a Black professor. We have the right to have Black books, and all of the things.
Something you said, Nalui, that was very interesting is the way it seems from your perspective that not that you all see the United States as a model, but obviously the way Blacks, from your vantage point, are viewed here, it seems like Blacks may have more explorations when it comes to their identity. You talked about the hair products, how they weren't even available in Brazil, you know, and that's a thing where we do have a lot of self-identity. Um, we do have a lot of power in that regards, but we still have our own identity complexes too as a people because we have such a wide spectrum of people. A lot of it is colorism. And I know you all are very familiar with colorism in Brazil, with all the different categories of race, with the IBG. That goes back to the 1970s, even out when they started the racial classifications. But it's interesting how Black Americans sometimes, I feel like if we had more commonality as far as understanding that there are Blacks in Latin America, for instance, like you said, Brazil has the second largest Black population outside of Nigeria. You stated that very well early in the presentation, but a lot of Black Americans feel like they have struggles that are only unique to them, but they don't realize that there are Black people in Brazil struggling just like we are here with mass incarceration, with the police state that we're going through. And so I think if we get anything from this dialogue when it comes to U.S.-Brazil relations, I think people, especially Blacks in the States, should open their minds up and hear your experiences a lot more, because we're not alone in this. This is happening. This is part of the diaspora. And the U.S.-centric narrative sometimes is overpowering, and it takes over the news, it takes over mainstream, but it's not a good representation of the Black diaspora overall, because I know for a fact that this is happening in Cuba, this is happening in Brazil. And so people need to understand that we are here. Even though there were originally 5 million Blacks that were sent to Brazil, 94% of the Blacks from the slave trade were sent to Latin America and the Caribbean and Central America. We were only like 5% of that population from Africa that was sent against our will to the New World. And so I think it's really important for Black people in the United States to understand that what you all are saying, like, we're talking about the same struggle in a lot of ways.
Yes, it's really important. And in Brazil, like in my case, I'm going to other countries in Latin America. My research is about Cuba, and it's interesting to say Cuba have a completely different economic and political system, and the racism, the mass incarceration. We don't have much information about. We don't have a mass incarceration in Cuba, but Black people are being incarcerated in Cuba. Black people are being criminalized in Cuba. So in Latin America, we have all these questions, and Brazil is isolated in Latin America. Like many Brazilians don't think they are Latin. It's strange to say, but Brazilians don't recognize themselves like Latinos. They language, because we are the only country in this region speak Portuguese. But it's really important learn about the experience of these other countries, because I learn things in US and I bring to here. I learn things from Cuba and I use in my struggle here. I learn things in Colombia. Colombia have a Black population too. I learned things from Colombia and bring for this struggle, for these fights here. So we need articulating. We need to be articulating like a Black people, because they country change, they system change, but the necropolitical is like the same. It's not the same. They have a different face, but the objective of control and genocide is the same. So we need to understand what is happening
No doubt.
around us.
Yeah.
I had one question before Chris Nelson takes a question from the audience. You alluded to it, I think, a little bit in the presentation, because you talked a lot about affirmative action, which I'm so glad you did, because I remember watching a PBS documentary a long time ago about affirmative action, and I think your presentation gave good insight into how the quota system works in Brazil, affirmative action quotas, and how there are limitations. Obviously, you were talking about how 15% of whites were occupying the Black slots in this system, and how that opens up to the possibilities of fraud, and it sort of like undercuts the whole validity of the system. You know, like, who's actually benefiting from the quotas? You know, are these Black people benefiting or not Black people at all? But I had a question about you personally. What would you say is your biggest issue as a university student right now on campus? What's your biggest struggle, if you were to say there was a struggle for you personally?
I think it's difficult to say one thing.
Right.
But the structure of the university is hard to change. We need to spend much energy, much time to have a dialogue, to organize, and press and say to the university to change things. So they fight. I think the fight for the spots in degree. It's really difficult, because like we have a law saying the university need to do this, but the university don't move to do this. So I think it's important, because the Black students are graduating, and they need other opportunities. They need to access other spaces. So I think it's one of the things difficult, and we are working for this now. And I think we have a better situation now in the ether identification, like they verifying the quotas, the affirmations actions. But I think the situation of the graduating is problematic, and the material conditions too. It's really hard to be a Black poor student in the university.
Thank you so much for that.
Okay, thank
Sorry.
you. So the university need to help the students, give records, like it's a federal university. So, but the university need to do more things, and we are always organizing to ask like what you're doing for solve this problem. These students don't have condition, what you can do for solve this. So basically, I think these both things, the material conditions for us and the graduate programs, it's hard. And the psychology thing is we are seeing many Black students with mental health problems, and it's a question for us
Oh,
to.
yeah.
I just wanted to acknowledge that we got joined by Professor Dawn Duke. Dr. Duke is with us, and she's the one who met Nalui and thought that we could bring her here for this virtual talk. Thank you so much for coming, Dr. Duke.
Thank you. It was awesome. Thank you so much, Nalui. Hello, I'm here. And
Thank you so much.
very, very good, very good. Brought back a lot of memories of our encounters, especially in Havana, in terms of your research, you know, looking at the same kinds of topics in relation to what is happening there. That's enough. We'll leave that one for another talk in the future. Okay.
So we've got about 10 minutes left. I have one question from one of our professors of Latin American history, Bo Gators, who asks about how Brazilian newspapers are responding to these different movements for justice for Black people. Are they writing only negative things about the movements? Are they receptive? And maybe then, Dawn, you have a question to ask at the end to wrap things up.
Dr. Duque, say something?
If the question is also in Portuguese in the chat. Professor Gators is wonderful to help with the translation. So how are the Brazilian newspapers reporting on these movements?
They're not reporting.
Yeah.
It's the situation. They are not reporting. They ignore this.
So like Asia, they don't even respond to movements like that?
So
No,
everything is happening online. All the communication and the mobilization, everything is online.
Mm.
How is it happening?
Like this movement, like the March of Black Women with 60,000 people in the capital. Any journal, any like, no, we don't have news, we don't have anything in the media, in the hegemonic media are talking about this. They just ignore what Black people are saying, Black people in Brazil are saying. But when the movements are happening in US, like after George Floyd case, they tell about this. This is racist strategy. Like they just pretend we don't exist here.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. I have a question to close. I think, is it? Yes, we have about 5 minutes. Marielle Castro's assassination. This is a little bit of a historical perspective here. Do you think that when that happened, it changed how mobilization and how protest, and it changed how young people especially participated in the movement? Was there a change? What do you think?
I think Marielle Franco case is really specific situation. I think this case changed the politics. More Black people are running for spots running like a congressman.
Running for office, yes.
Yes, running for office. But in my perspective, this case don't change the way of protests. Have much visibility for the case, and I think they who made this don't expect this because she was a Black woman and they expect nobody care about this, but was different. who made this have much power, like is a really power person, because all the situation in police was really complicated. The investigation don't understand who made. So I understand in this way. It's change the politics, but not change the way of the protests are happening here.
But that's huge. That's huge. The fact that I think we have a record number of women of color running for office in Brazil
Yes.
today. It's unprecedented from what I understand.
Mm.
And just one thing I want to say is the debate of race is growing, and these politics understand it, and many people who don't care about race are asking, invite Black women to be the vice, are doing more dialogues with Black people because they are understand this change.
And I think it has to do with they understand it a bit more because the media is showing what's happening in the United States. Right. Thank you, Nalui. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again so much for joining us today, Nalui. I think we really got a lot about the recent history of Brazil, their struggles with affirmative action, and how the university is somewhat changing, but also not changing as much as it needs to. A lot of echoes with what we're seeing here in the United States, with similar calls for more changes, the difficulty of changing these complex organizations, but the real psychological toll that not change brings to Black students, Black faculty who are trying to push for more justice and a better world. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you to all of our attendees. Thank you to Professor Duke and to Africana Studies, Political Science, Sociology, Modern Foreign Languages and Literatures, Global Studies, and all of our co-sponsors. And thank you to Kiko for jumping in at the last minute to help us facilitate this.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Kristen.
Yes.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye. Thank you.
Hey, nice to meet you, Nalui.
Nice to meet you, and thank you. And I want to invite everybody to come to Brazil and come to Latin America and learn more about this region, this situation. I think it's good when you have these different opportunities. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We keep in touch.
And there will be a recording of this program. If you missed the beginning, you can come back and listen to it all. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Good night.